The multitonal alert pierced Elena Reyes' dreamless sleep like a physical intrusion. She jolted upright, heart hammering, as her quarters automatically brightened to a soft amber glow. The holographic terminal by her bedside had activated itself. Protocol override. Not good. Ambassador Reyes. Council Sentinel HFY's crystalline exoskeleton refracted light in agitated patterns, a visual cacophony that her implanted translator struggled to process alongside his verbal communication. Your presence is required immediately before the High Council. The matter cannot be delayed. Elena swung her legs over the bed, fully awake now. Nature of the summons, Sentinel. Accusations of the highest order await. The crystalline being's facets darkened momentarily. I recommend formal diplomatic attire. The transmission terminated without the customary light harmonic farewell. Elena stood motionless for 3 seconds, processing. 6 months into humanity's probationary assembly membership, and already facing something that had the typically unflappable HFY displaying stress fractures in his communication patterns. Athena, situational assessment. She called to her AI assistant as she moved toward her closet. The room's ambient intelligence responded immediately. Unusual activity detected throughout diplomatic channels. Surveillance indicates 17 senior representatives have converged on the council spire during designated rest period. Public feeds from assembly species show heightened communication patterns consistent with significant diplomatic incident. Elena selected her formal attire. The midnight blue suit embedded with quantum sensors designed to analyze the subtle physiological responses of 32 different sentient categories. As she dressed, she reviewed her mental catalog of recent human activities in assembly space. Display incoming assembly feeds, she ordered. The wall opposite her bed transformed into a mosaic of real-time transmissions. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. Species that had maintained emotionless diplomacy for millennia were exhibiting unprecedented behaviors, the gaseous myth coalescing into dense, threatening formations, the hive mind Taurians splitting into fragmented consciousness patterns. Earth status, she asked, securing the neural interface pin at her collar. All human outposts reporting normal operations, Athena replied. However, 2 trading vessels report being denied standard docking procedures at Centauri Hub within the last hour. No explanation provided. Elena checked her appearance in the mirror, noting the shadows under her eyes from too many cycles adapting to the assembly's 27-hour day. Whatever this crisis, she would face it as humanity's voice among the stars. Composed, intelligent, and unyielding when necessary. Her diplomatic shuttle waited in the private bay, its pilot, an enhanced human named Carter with reflexes faster than most security scanning systems, already running pre-flight checks. Ambassador, he nodded, not bothering with formalities. The council spire has designated priority approach vector. We're cleared for immediate transit. As they accelerated toward the imposing assembly spire, its impossible architecture of transparent platforms suspended in engineered vacuum, Elena noted the unusual concentration of security vessels from multiple species. They're treating this like a tribunal, not a hearing, Carter murmured, dark eyes flicking over the tactical display. Elena watched as the colossal structure grew larger, its crystalline surfaces refracting the light of the binary stars. Whatever the accusation, it threatens to unravel humanity's position here. She straightened her collar. And someone's made sure I have no time to prepare. The shuttle slowed as it approached the diplomatic docking ring. Through the view screen, Elena could see representatives of a dozen species converging on the council chamber, moving with purpose and unmistakable agitation. Good luck in there, Carter said as the docking clamps engage. Something's got them rattled. Could work in our favor. Elena squared her shoulders and moved toward the airlock. Or it could mean they've already decided our fate. The assembly chamber defied human architectural understanding, a vertigo-inducing geometric impossibility of transparent platforms suspended in engineered vacuum. Elena stepped from the transfer pad onto the accused podium, a circular platform hovering unsupported at the chamber center. The quantum sensors in her suit immediately detected the emotional signatures of the gathered representatives, a storm of alien biochemistry that registered as predominantly hostile. 217 species, represented by beings of all conceivable forms, arranged in concentric rings according to their membership seniority. Humans, as the newest addition, occupy the outermost ring, a single vacant seat that Elena normally filled. Today, she stood apart, isolated at the chamber center. Archspeaker Volman, eldest of the ancient Zith hegemony, slithered forward on his gravity disk. His elongated body, covered in iridescent scales that rippled with bioluminescence, positioned itself directly opposite Elena. 6 compound eyes fixed upon her with unblinking intensity. The assembly recognizes Ambassador Elena Reyes of Terra. His voice resonated with harmonics designed to instill submission in lesser species. Elena's neural dampeners automatically adjusted, protecting her from the subtle psychological manipulation. You stand before us to answer for actions that violate our most sacred covenant. The central projection matrix activated, coalescing into a high-definition, 3-dimensional display visible from all angles. "Observe humanity's arrogance," Volman announced. The footage showed 3 vessels in orbit around a blue-green world, unmistakably human ships bearing Earth Alliance insignia. Timestamps and spatial coordinates identified the location. Proxima Centauri IV, a pre-FTL civilization under assembly protection. The footage transitioned to ground level. Human representatives in environmental suits handing crystalline technology to indigenous amphibian-like beings with large, multifaceted eyes. The assembly erupted. The Drav representatives released clouds of crimson spores, signifying extreme agitation. The crystalline Toph shattered and reformed in patterns of aggression. The Myth Collective emitted ultraviolet pulses that Elena's enhanced vision registered as pure rage. The evidence speaks for itself. Volman continued when the chamber quieted. Humanity has violated the Prime Directive. You have interfered with the natural development of a protected species. Elena maintained her composure, but her mind raced. She recognized the footage. It matched the humanitarian mission authorized 3 months ago. But subtle inconsistencies caught her attention. The ship markings weren't quite right. The lighting on the planetary surface didn't match Proxima's spectral profile. "I request time to prepare humanity's defense," she stated firmly, her implanted translator conveying unshakable resolve in 27 different communication forms simultaneously. "Time," hissed a myth representative, its gaseous form pulsing dangerously. "While you prepare fabrications, the humans have demonstrated their unworthiness for assembly membership. The evidence presented requires proper analysis," Elena countered. Assembly Protocol 7.3 guarantees the right to examination and response. Or does the Assembly now abandon its own principles when convenient? A ripple of uncomfortable shifting spread through the middle rings where younger but established species sat. Several representatives exchanged private communications through encrypted channels. "You have 12 rotations to prepare your defense," Volman finally conceded, his scales darkening to deep indigo. "But know this, Ambassador Rice, in 3,000 cycles, no species has ever successfully refuted such clear evidence of directive violation." As Elena exited through the diplomatic corridor, a hooded figure brushed past her. The momentary contact left a data crystal in her hand, along with a whispered warning. "Trust no one within the assembly. Your species was meant to fail today." She closed her fingers around the crystal, maintaining her diplomatic composure as she reached the shuttle bay. Only when the doors to her private transport sealed behind her did she allow herself a single deep breath. "Carter," she addressed her pilot, "get us back to the embassy. Secure channels only. I think we've been set up." The Terran embassy transformed overnight into a fortress of frantic activity. Elena converted the central atrium into an operations center, security protocols at maximum. Diplomatic staff worked alongside security personnel, their faces etched with determination and barely concealed anxiety. "The data crystal contains fragmentary assembly communications," said Kaijan, his fingers dancing over holographic interfaces. A diplomat with synesthetic perception enhancements, Kai could literally taste deception in data, a modification that made him invaluable but had nearly driven him insane during his adjustment period. Correspondence between 7 council members and something called the Drivis Consortium. Trading Federation, Elena supplied. They lost 3 major mining contracts to human companies last cycle. Dr. Samira Naidu nodded, her eyes flickering with the telltale iridescence of active neural implants. The experimental technology allowed her to process information at superhuman speeds, though the cost was severe migraines and a significantly shortened lifespan. Financial motivation established. But this conspiracy required extensive resources and assembly access, which they have, interjected Joel Kagam, the final member of Elena's hastily assembled team. The former intelligence operative leaned against a pillar, his weathered face betraying nothing of his thoughts. His official file listed him as a cultural attaché, a transparent fiction that fooled no one but satisfied diplomatic protocols. The consortium has representatives from 14 elder species. They practically wrote the Assembly's original charter. Elena circled the central holodeck where the accused footage played on loop. "The ships are wrong," she stated. "Look at the hull configuration. It's close, but the proportions are off by 3%. Someone altered legitimate rescue mission footage." Kai's eyes unfocused as he engaged his enhancements. Tasting. Metallic. Artificial. Definitely manipulated. He accessed deeper data layers. Spectral analysis confirms costing effects at certain light frequencies where content was altered. "Public networks are turning against us," Samira reported, monitoring dozens of information streams simultaneously. 3 Earth vessels quarantined at Proxima Relay Station. Human merchants attacked in trading hubs on Ta Ceti and Epsilon Eridani. "We need more," Elena decided. "We need to know why they're targeting us. And why now?" Joel pushed himself away from the pillar. "I know someone. Disgraced Zith scientist. Worked assembly archives for 3 centuries before. Political disagreements. Not cheap, not legal, but has access." "Do it," Elena authorized. "Whatever resources needed." As Joel left to make contact, Elena's personal communication device chimed with a private alert from her shuttle pilot. "Ambassador." Carter's voice was tight with controlled alarm. Pre-flight checks revealed systematic tampering with life support and navigation systems. "If we'd launched for your scheduled meeting at Saturn Outpost." He didn't need to finish. "Someone's trying to remove you from the equation," Samira concluded, her enhanced cognition already calculating probabilities. "This is bigger than a trade dispute." Before Elena could respond, Kai straightened suddenly, his sensory enhancements registering something significant. "Ambassador, I found something in the crystal data. Similar accusations, identical methodology, against every newly admitted species over the past 4,000 years." The room fell silent as implications cascaded through their collective understanding. "Get me everything," Elena ordered. "And increase security protocols. Someone powerful wants humanity to fail, and they're willing to kill to make it happen." Halfway across the embassy complex, Joel Kagam stepped into a secure transmission chamber, inputting coordinates for a contact that officially didn't exist. They had 12 rotations before Elena faced the assembly again. Time was running out. "There's something wrong with the energy signatures," Samira announced, her enhanced cognition processing the footage for the 17th time. Her eyes flickered with neural activity, pupils dilating and contracting as she isolated and enhanced specific frames. "Look here and here." She highlighted sections where faint distortion patterns appeared around the Proxima atmosphere. Evidence of another vessel. Cloak, but the atmospheric entry created ripple effects. Elena leaned closer. "Someone else was there during our rescue mission." "The real question," Joel said, returning from his clandestine meeting, "is what exactly were we interrupting?" He placed a small isolock data module on the table. Its security features, quantum sealed, and genetically keyed to human DNA, indicated the extreme value of its contents. My contact delivered. Cost me favors I can't afford to lose, but we have backdoor access to restricted assembly archival protocols. Tell me it was worth it, Alina said. More than you know. Joel activated the module. We need to go to Proxima Centauri IV ourselves. Now. Impossible, Kai objected. The system's under complete lockdown. Assembly blockade. A rare smile crossed Joel's weathered face. Unless you have experimental phase-shifting technology that makes a vessel temporarily exist in a parallel dimensional state. We don't have. Alina began. The prototype from the Shanghai Research Division. Joel interrupted. Currently installed on the diplomatic courier Swiftthought. Officially still in testing. Alina considered for precisely 3 seconds. Samira, Kai, continue the data analysis. Joel and I will make an unscheduled visit to our accuser's primary evidence. 6 hours later, the Swiftthought, officially on a routine maintenance cycle in Earth orbit, slipped through subspace at the edge of Proxima Centauri's heliosphere. The phase shift drive hummed at dangerous levels, the experimental technology never intended for sustained operation. Approaching Proxima IV, Joel reported from the navigation console. Phase shift stable at 87%. We're effectively invisible to conventional sensors. Alina studied the planet below. Take us down near the coordinates from the footage. The descent revealed a world of azure seas and emerald landmasses, the indigenous civilization evident in scattered settlements along coastlines. Joel guided the craft toward a remote peninsula where the alleged human interference had occurred. What they discovered defied Alina's diplomatic training. Mass graves, hundreds of indigenous inhabitants piled in hastily excavated pits. The bodies showed surgical precision. Cranial cases opened, neural tissue extracted. What happened here? Alina whispered, the environmental suit's filters barely masking the sickly sweet decay. A movement caught her attention. Indigenous survivors emerged from hidden shelters, their amphibian features marked by fear and desperate hope. Through the crude translator in Alina's suit, their story emerged. Sky demons had come, harvesting their people for a substance produced in their brain stems. The demons had taken thousands before the humans intervened. Back aboard the Swiftthought, Alina reviewed the sample container Joel had collected from an abandoned harvesting facility. Neural extract, he confirmed, running the analysis. Primary component in transcendence, a consciousness-altering drug. Highly addictive, extremely valuable. Popular among elite assembly species. We interrupted a harvesting operation. Alina realized, horror washing over her. Not a primitive civilization's development. Ambassador. Samira's voice came through the secure channel. We've broken through the restricted archives. You need to see this immediately. The transmission revealed classified files showing similar resource extraction programs on 12 other developing worlds, all sanctioned through unofficial assembly channels. Every species that exposed such operations, Samira continued, was eliminated. Engineered disasters, fabricated conflicts. Complete removal from galactic history. Alina stared at the evidence, the impossible choice before her crystallizing. Maintain diplomatic silence and negotiate a lesser punishment for Earth, or risk everything to expose a system of exploitation that had existed for millennia. Plot a course back to the embassy, she finally ordered. It's time to prepare for war, an information war they'll never forget. Conventional defense is suicide, Alina announced to her team, now expanded to include Carter and 3 additional specialists, hastily recalled from Earth outposts. They expect denial, negotiation, or capitulation. We're going asymmetric. The embassy's secure conference room, swept for surveillance devices every 30 minutes, buzzed with intense activity. Holographic displays showed assembly communication networks, security protocols, and representatives' profiles. Our advantage is they think we're primitive, Alina continued. 6 months in the assembly means they haven't fully assessed our technological capabilities or psychological warfare techniques. Kai manipulated a complex three-dimensional model of the assembly's quantum-secured networks. I've identified insertion points for our data packages. The networks are designed to resist external penetration, but they're surprisingly vulnerable to authorized internal access, which we now have, Joel added, gesturing to the archival protocols they'd acquired. Our friends' access codes are ancient but deeply embedded in the system architecture. Samira approached, her neural implants glowing beneath her skin as she processed vast quantities of information. I've developed species-specific presentation modules designed to bypass the cognitive defenses of each major representative. She displayed psychologically tailored information sequences. The Zith processed visual information through emotional filters. We target those directly. The Myth collective functions through distributed consensus. We introduce targeted desynchronization. And my truth verification algorithm, she continued, displaying a complex system, will analyze and display real-time physiological responses from all assembly representatives during your address. Their own bodies will betray their deceptions. Elena nodded approval. Carter, status on our distributed backup. Complete, the pilot confirmed. Human intelligence operatives positioned throughout assembly space stand ready to release evidence to public networks of all member worlds simultaneously. If they try to silence the assembly transmission, we have 217 alternate channels. As night fell, Elena withdrew to her private quarters. She recorded farewell messages to her family on Earth. Messages she genuinely hoped would never need to be delivered. The statistics Samira had calculated gave humanity a 27% chance of surviving this confrontation intact. A soft chime announced visitors. 3 representatives from recently admitted species entered cautiously: the insectoid Vray, the crystalline Pell, and the aquatic Nimbari. We've witnessed the corruption. The Vray representative chittered softly. Our worlds, too, have lost developing colonies to unexplained incidents when we asked uncomfortable questions. We cannot act openly, the Nimbari bubbled through her translation device, but our communication networks will remain open to your transmission. After they departed, Dr. Naidu entered with a medical team. The neural mesh is ready, she said, her eyes reflecting concern. But this procedure hasn't been properly tested. The risk is necessary, Elena finished, removing her jacket. The experimental procedure would embed the complete evidence package in a neural mesh within her own brain, making her living backup storage that couldn't be detected by assembly security scans. As medical manites prepared her neural pathways, Elena addressed her assembled team one final time. The assembly has built its power on secrets kept for millennia. Tomorrow, humanity introduces them to radical transparency. She fixed each of them with a steady gaze. Either we all leave this assembly as equals, or humanity charts its own path among the stars. And if we fail? Someone asked. Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. We've left copies of everything with Earth Command. If we disappear, the entire assembly goes to war with a species that has nothing left to lose. Elena stepped onto the assembly floor wearing not the expected posture of a defendant, but the formal attire of absolute diplomatic privilege. An ancient ceremonial garment recovered from assembly archives that signaled a claim to equal standing. The chamber fell silent, representatives frozen in collective shock at the audacity. Archspeaker Volman recovered first. Ambassador Rice, you stand accused. I invoke the Founder's right of uninterrupted address, Elena announced, her voice amplified through the chamber. She activated the override protocol Joel had discovered in the ancient archives, a failsafe from the Assembly's formation that temporarily granted her uninterruptible speaking rights. The chamber's systems recognized the ancient command sequence. A soft harmonic tone confirmed the protocol's activation. Volman's scales darkened in fury, but assembly systems prevented his interruption. Esteemed representatives, Elena began, her voice steady. I stand before you not to deny humanity's actions, but to recontextualize them within the Assembly's own hidden history. With precise timing, her team activated the dormant data packages, bypassing security measures through the backdoor access they'd installed. On every representative's private display, evidence unfurled, the unedited footage showing humans intervening to stop the harvesting operation, historical records of similar interventions by established members, financial transactions linking council members to the neural tissue trade. The assembly was founded on the principle that advanced species should protect developing civilizations. Elena continued as shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. Yet we discovered your harvesting operations on Proxima Centauri IV, operations extracting neural tissue from sentient beings for luxury drug production. Several Zith representatives lunged toward Elena, venom sacs expanded, only to collapse unconscious as targeted countermeasures activated. The human team had identified and neutralized their biological weapons in advance. The Drav delegation attempted to release memory-altering spores, only to find their specialized glands temporarily neutralized by targeted ultrasonic disruption. The chamber descended into chaos as translation systems struggled to keep pace with the explosive reactions. Security protocols activated, containment fields isolating the chamber, exactly as Elena had anticipated. You've had millennia of unchallenged authority, Elena declared above the pandemonium. Humanity has had 6 months, and that was enough to expose you. These accusations are fabrications, Volman hissed, fighting the communication override. Assembly security, remove the human. Observe, Elena commanded, activating Samira's truth verification system. The central display projected physiological responses of all present members, creating a cascading effect as representatives reacted to seeing their peers' involuntary biological confirmations of her accusations. Your bodies betray your knowledge, Elena said. The neural tissue trade, the exploitation of developing species, the systematic elimination of those who discovered your operations, all confirmed by your own physiological responses. The eldest myth representative, its gaseous form vibrating with ancient frequencies, suddenly shifted to a communication spectrum unused for 7,000 years. The human speaks the rhythm of truth, it intoned in the ceremonial language of the founders. The words activated dormant protocols throughout the chamber. The chamber's central pillar, believed to be purely decorative, fractured along invisible seams, revealing a hidden repository of historical records. The Founders' Transparency Directive, created as a failsafe but never activated in the Assembly's history, initiated an automatic declassification cascade. The truth cannot be contained, Elena announced as incontrovertible evidence, flooded every communication channel. And humanity will not be silenced. The hidden repository of historical records projected its contents throughout the chamber, impossible to ignore or suppress. Ancient data, preserved in its original form, cascaded across every available display surface. The true history of the Assembly unfolded before representatives of all member species. Look upon your founders, Elena instructed, her voice carrying absolute authority through the transparency protocol. See them as they truly were. The records showed the original 13 species that formed the Assembly, not as benevolent protectors, but as systematic exploiters who rose to galactic prominence through calculated interventions with developing species. Historical footage displayed the harvesting of resources, knowledge, and biological materials from hundreds of pre-FTL civilizations. The sacred non-interference protocols had been established only after the founding members secured their positions of power. The Assembly was built on exploitation. Elena continued as representatives watched their most cherished myths crumble. The non-interference directive was never about protection. It was about monopolizing access to developing worlds. Archspeaker Volman, his scales now ashen gray, attempted to activate emergency protocols. This is selective interpretation. Historical context is missing. The context is clear, Elena countered, directing attention to transaction records spanning millennia. The same pattern repeated with each new civilization discovered. Those with valuable biological or technological assets were harvested. Those with useful knowledge were stripped of their discoveries. Those who might become competitors were eliminated. The records confirmed her claims, showing systematic extinction events against species who developed faster than light travel independently. The Proxima operation was merely the latest in an unbroken chain of exploitation. Your founders created rules to benefit themselves, Alina said, while presenting themselves as galactic guardians. The real question is, what will you, their inheritors, do with this truth? As the final records displayed, the chamber fell into stunned silence. Alina could have pressed her advantage, demanded concessions, or threatened punitive measures. Instead, she took a different path. Humanity does not stand before you seeking vengeance, she stated, her voice softening. We stand before you offering transformation. Every species in this chamber has been manipulated, some as victims, others as unwitting perpetuators of a system they didn't create. Alina moved to the center of the chamber, her neural mesh transmitting the complete evidence package to the Assembly's permanent records, where it could never be erased. We have a choice, she continued. We can fracture into recrimination and retaliation, or we can acknowledge our shared manipulation and build something better. The Assembly can finally become what it has always claimed to be, a true coalition of equals committed to mutual advancement and protection. Around the chamber, representatives began to respond. First, the younger species, then gradually even some of the eldest members. The collective mood shifted from shock and denial towards something new, possibility. The Proxima natives deserve justice, Alina said, as do all exploited species. But beyond justice, we all deserve truth. Without truth, there can be no real alliance among stars. The eldest myth representative, its gaseous form now stable and luminous, approached Alina. In 7,000 cycles, no species has dared to break the Assembly's reserve of secrets. You have shattered millennia of silence. The question before us is not what we have been, but what we shall become. And that, Alina replied, is a question worthy of an assembly of equals. 3 months later, Alina stood at the newly designed central confluence, the hierarchical assembly chamber replaced by a perfect circular arrangement with no elevated positions. Representatives from all member species occupied identical platforms, a physical manifestation of the equality now embedded in the reformed assembly's foundation. The reformation protocol she had proposed had been implemented with remarkable speed, driven by the undeniable evidence and the collective will of younger species. All historical violations had been acknowledged, reparations programs established for exploited civilizations, and a new development initiative created where advanced technology was shared according to ethical guidelines rather than political calculation. Most significantly, 17 previously unknown species kept in forced pre-FTL status had been contacted and invited to join galactic society. Among them, the Proxima natives now had their own representation through a collective consciousness ambassador who floated in a specially designed aquatic environment. Not all transitions had been peaceful. 3 former council species had attempted a military coup, only to find themselves contained by an unprecedented coalition of middle-tier and newly admitted species. The Dravis Consortium had been dissolved, its assets redistributed to fund the reparations programs. As Alina prepared to introduce Earth's second ambassador, her replacement while she chaired the newly formed Transformation Commission, she reflected on the message she would transmit to Earth later that day. The message would be broadcast to every human colony and settlement, explaining how humanity's greatest contribution to galactic society wasn't technological innovation or military strategy, but something more fundamentally human. Representatives of the United Assembly, Alina began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's perfect acoustics. 3 months ago, we stood at a precipice. Today, we stand on new ground, forged through collective will and unprecedented cooperation. She gestured to the human woman beside her. I present Ambassador Sophia Chen, who will represent Earth while I serve as Transformation Commissioner. Together, we will continue the work of building a truly equitable galactic community. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her expression solemn but hopeful. I am honored to serve in this transformed assembly, where every voice carries equal weight, and where truth is no longer feared but embraced. As the formal introduction concluded, Elena was approached by the Proximan representative, its amphibian features now understood as expressions of a complex emotional language. "Your species had nothing to gain by exposing the truth," the Proximan communicated through its translator. "You risked extinction to defend beings you had never met." "That is perhaps the most human thing about us," Elena replied. "We recognize ourselves in others, even when they look nothing like us." Later, as her private shuttle prepared for departure to the Commission's new headquarters, Elena looked out at the transformed assembly complex. The structures themselves had been redesigned, transparency and accessibility replacing the imposing, intimidating architecture of the past. Her neural implants flickered as she composed her message to Earth. When faced with a system designed to break newcomers into submission, humanity didn't break. Instead, it broke the system into something better. Our greatest strength wasn't our technology or our determination, though both served us well. It was our audacity to question authority, our compassion to defend the exploited, and our vision to imagine a more equitable future. In that moment of truth, we showed the galaxy not just who we are, but who we all might become.